This conference will now be recorded.
So we'll call the meeting to order at 7:02. We need to do a roll call. I'll start with me, Charles Funk.
Angie DeSanto.
Garth Bean.
Judy Austin.
Jesse Burnham.
John Kopek.
And we have Catherine as a ex officio. All right. I think we only have one alternate here, which is John. And I think we'll seat John Kopek for Carl Falsgraf.
There we are.
Next agenda item is communications. I don't have any direct communications, but I would like to make some comments. I'd like to briefly comment on the recent passing of our fellow board member, Carl Falsgraf. I've been in touch with a number of people who've interacted with him on a variety of boards, committees, and business organizations over the years, and in some cases, decades. I'm going to take the liberty of quoting one such person who summarized his impact the way I saw it too. So this is quote, "Carl was a quiet resource and a hidden gem. He mulled over all business at hand and was also always looking at the future and well-being of the community. He was not afraid to tackle hard topics, but in a fair way. We have lost a balancing beam to our community, and his years of knowledge cannot be replaced. I count him," this is me speaking now, "I count him as one of my friends. He will be missed greatly."
Thank you. Yep.
Next agenda item is public comments. I have a second opportunity for public comments as well, a little bit later in the meeting. But if anybody has something they'd like to say now, it's a good time. Okay. Agenda item 5, approve minutes of the regular meeting Thursday, March 18th, 2021. I'll need somebody to make a motion.
I'll motion, Chuck. This is Judy.
Thanks,
To
Judy.
approve the minutes.
I'll need a second. Angie, would you be able to second?
Oh, sure. Kind of out of it here.
All right, thank you. I don't have any corrections. I do have a clarification that we're not going to add to the minutes. It's really, I'm not exactly sure where to put this into this particular meeting, but one of the things at the very end, quote, Ms. DeSanto asked what would the actual dollar change be on a $300,000 valued property with a 0.2 less of a mill rate. And then it followed up with, would it be, say, $50 or $500? And I have to say, I went brain dead at that moment and couldn't even hazard a guess to that particular question. So now I have an answer. So on a $300,000 valued house, we tax at 70% of that. So that would be a $300,000 house would be valued for tax purposes at $210,000. Our mill rate this particular year is 36.836 mills. So if you take 210 and you multiply it by 36.836, you come out with $7,735.56. If you reduce that by 0.2 of a mil, which would then make it 36.636, and you do the same math, it ends up being $7,693.96. Some of the change may be slightly off on that. Anyway, the net difference is about $42. So Angie, that's the answer to your question. Another
Thank
way
you.
of looking at this, and this is what I should have had at the very top of my head, was 0.2 of a mil is 20 cents, right? One mil, $1,000 of value is worth $1. So every $1,000 that you have of property value, a mill taxes it at $1. That would be $1. So a 0.2 is 20 cents. So whatever the value of your house is times 0.2 of a mill, that's what the tax would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
good job. Thank you.
All right. So that really has nothing to do with the minutes themselves, but that answers that question. Does anybody have any spelling corrections, clarifications, anything? All right, so there's a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Apparently there are no corrections. I believe that Judy, Jesse, Angie, and myself were present. All in favor of those corrections?
Aye.
Aye. Judy?
Jesse Burnham, aye.
Okay, Jesse, yep. Judy, are you
She's
in
on
favor?
mute. She's on mute.
Okay,
Sorry about that. Aye.
thank you. All right. Abstain?
John Kopeck.
And Garth Bean.
Okay. And anybody opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Somehow that was arduous. All right. New business. I don't think we have. What time is it? Yeah, I don't think we have a representative here yet to speak to the budget of Region 19. So what I'd like to do is we'll hold off until Janice can join us, and we will skip to Selectmen's update. Catherine?
Hi there. Okay, I did forward that explanation about the relief, the recovery funding.
Yeah.
I always use the wrong term for it. I did forward that to you the other day, but I just forwarded it again, Chuck.
Okay,
So
thank
you'll
you.
find it in the Board of Finance meeting folder or minutes folder.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to pull that up so I can just look at it and I'll read to it from you or for you. All right, this information we did get from Tammy Nuccio, which is good. What it says is that for the ESSR or ESSER 3 funding, that can be used for, bear with me, this is small here. For the state and local aid, Treasury has 60 days from the passage of the bill, that was last Thursday, I think, to distribute the funds to the states. The states then have 30 days to get the funds to municipalities. So we're looking at an estimated 90-day distribution period. The funding will be distributed in two tranches. I've never heard that word before. The first following this timeline, the second 12 months after the passage of the bill into law. These funds are available until December 31st of 2024. So I think you probably have it in your minutes from the last meeting where I indicated what the estimate for the ESSER 3 funds were, and then for the state and local aid. So the ESSER 3 funds will be available until September 30th of 2023. It says the ARP mandates that a minimum of 20% of the allocation must be reserved to address learning loss due to remote learning. It's her understanding it will be up to the districts to decide how to best address the learning loss. But she said she'll keep on this until we have more guidance publicly by the education department. All right, so right now we're working with pretty bare bones, but here are the eligible uses for both funds. For ESSER 3 is for repairing ventilation systems, reducing class sizes and implementing social distancing guidelines, purchasing personal protective equipment, hiring support staff to care for the students' health and well-being, and schools must reserve at least 20% of the funding they receive to address learning loss. For state and local aid, to respond to the pandemic or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. And Valerie, we'll make sure to get this to you so you don't have to listen to the minute of all of this again just to catch it. You'll have it. For premium pay to eligible workers performing essential work as determined by each recipient government during the pandemic, providing up to $13 per hour above regular wages. For the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the pandemic relative to revenues collected at the most recent full fiscal year, and to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. In addition, a recipient may transfer its allocation to a private nonprofit organization, tribal organization, public benefit corporation involved in the transportation of passengers or cargo, or special purpose unit of state or local government if the recipient government so chooses. The recipient entity would need to use the funds consistent with the purposes that were noted above. Let's see. And then the recipient government has to send the Treasury periodic reports with a detailed accounting of the uses of the funds. State and territories must also provide a modification to tax revenue sources since March 3rd, 2020. Okay. The language explicitly prohibits funds from being used to offset, either directly or indirectly, a tax cut made since March 3rd, 2021. Also prohibits being deposited into a pension fund. That's the guidelines we have right now.
Okay. So is that something that we end up having to really coordinate with Cheryl in terms of setting up an accounting system to deal with that particular fund? Is that what happens?
I'll leave that to Cheryl to respond. She's the expert.
Yep.
Sorry, that darn mute button was on the wrong screen. I'm going to hold off on answering until I get more guidance from the Government Finance Officers Association, see what everyone else is doing. It sounds a little confusing to me, so I'd rather not make any decisions, on the air.
Okay, yep. All right, very good. Thank you. But you're working on it. So good. Thanks. Catherine, anything else?
Nope. I think that was the key thing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
When we get to the next thing about cybersecurity, I think we have an update that we can give you as well.
Okay. Why don't we go to 6C on our agenda? We're still holding 6A in place, but 6C is discussion with Ashford School Board of Education concerning cyber security insurance for the town and the school. Catherine, do we want to start with you as far as your update?
Yeah. And Cheryl, I'd like you to correct me if I get it wrong, but since our last Board of Finance meeting, we have, again, we have a grave concern that the school does not have adequate cybersecurity, and we have been trying to get cyber insurance because our cyber insurance is going to run out June 30th, and we were trying to get it as early as possible so we would get a decent rate. We had delays in getting information that we needed from the school about their cybersecurity, and in order to fill out the application, the insurance application. And what happened is when the insurance company came back to us, or the broker came back to us, we found that the cybersecurity at the school was inadequate, and that would need to have changes in order to be covered by that policy at what we were talking about.
Yep.
Well, and then the big thing was to make sure that school was aware of this and make sure we set a timeline for them to get their cybersecurity corrected so that we could submit our application. Well, basically, the application, in a sense, is that in its form had been rejected. It is now rejected. We got that information after the Board of Finance meeting.
Yep.
So the ship sailed. And what has happened is Cheryl, if you could come back, if you could elaborate a little bit on what has been put forth to us and how much more it's going to cost.
Sure. Dan Anderson from HD Seeger reached out to multiple companies, and he did manage to get us a quote from Coalition, which we hadn't had before, and that one is $15,507. It is a $25,000 deductible and $1 million worth of coverage. So
I'm sorry, if I could interject, that is in comparison to what we originally were trying to get and had been offered, which was $7,770 and $10,000 deductible for $1 million of coverage. So if you hear frustration in my voice, it's because there was such slowness in getting the information that was needed, and certainly doesn't seem to be a whole lot of impetus in getting the problems corrected. So Cheryl, if you want to continue with whatever else they've said about that policy. We even tried to look for one that was just for the town and not for the school, but we understand that the liability that the school would have is going to fall directly on the town and the taxpayers.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
It makes more sense for us to get one together, even though it's a lot more money. It's still, if there was a breach, it would be a significant savings.
Yep. Out of curiosity, just because I don't know off the top of my head how it works, how do we, when we share a service like that, an insurance service or whatever, how do we determine what share is the town side? I mean, again, I understand it's all the same pot of money, but how do we determine what comes from the town side and what comes from the school side?
So for things like our liability and our workers' comp, we generally do a 60-40 or a 37-63 split between the board and the town. But with this cover, with the cyber coverage, Martha and I discussed it, and I think it's fair that the town, I can't find the first price I got from Coalition without the Board of Ed figures, but it was about $8,000 before they realized that they weren't looking at a combination of the two. So I think it's only fair that the town pay 40% of the I think it was $8,500, and then the school picks up the rest.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that the school should not be pursuing getting their cybersecurity up to date.
Well, yeah, that was my other question, and very shortly, I want to ask John Lippert to jump in. But my other question was, what if the school, let's just say magically over the next 2 months is able to get an analysis and put some things in place, blah blah blah. Can we put this out to bid at another time, or we're locked in for a year?
We would be locked in if we bound the policy.
And the thing is that the rate is just going up and up and up.
Right. Yeah, because it's getting more, people are getting more sophisticated at breaching these things, and it has a big impact for sure.
I'm on other meetings with other groups in the state, and particularly on the eastern side, and with other selectmen, and also emergency personnel, so to speak. And what the other towns have been able to acquire insurance, a number of them, where it was a $10,000 deductible or a $5,000 deductible, but they did it 2 months ago.
Yeah. So what I would say is, it isn't this particular auditing firm that we've been using, King & King, but it was the auditing firm ahead of them that had warned us and about cybersecurity becoming an increasing concern, and had recommended that we react to that. And this was something that Cheryl had done. Cheryl, you'll have to refresh my memory, but it was like 3 years ago or something. Am I off on that?
17 or 18.
Yeah, it was a while back when I remember it. It cost some. It was a bit of work to do it, but it made a number of changes.
It did, and if I may, we thought that we were progressive. We were pretty aggressive with our security, and they found it's good to go out to an outside firm because they find things that you aren't really looking for, and it's yeah, you're right.
Yep.
So I would highly recommend it.
So I guess I'd like to have John Lippert. You've obviously overheard this conversation. How are you guys thinking about this and considering responding to this particular concern?
In a couple of different ways. One is to express a bit of apology. This effort needed to be ramped up sooner than it has, and I'm sorry that we didn't push harder on the school to spend more time on this. It seems to me pretty clearly from conversations with the business office and the superintendent and our tech guy that the message has been received now, and that they get the importance. Well, I mean, they've always understood the importance of the idea of cybersecurity, but the importance of getting our ducks in a row, so to speak, and working with the town to get this all settled. I think That's all I really know at this point. I mean, I think that you should continue to push on me so that I continue to push on the school to expend effort and time to get this done. I think the only semi-excuse I would offer is I think there was a real hesitancy to spend money, which it will take to first to analyze the needs and then to remediate them. But that's a pretty weak excuse. Are there any board members on the call that actually have better information than I do or remember better conversations with school officials? Go ahead, Jane, if you don't mind, Chuck.
Yeah, that would be fine. Jane, go ahead.
I
Catherine,
don't
I'll
know.
get to you in 1 sec.
I don't know that I remember better, but I guess I have a question. The first time I remember this being raised at a Board of Ed meeting was, I believe, in late January. I'm just curious. It sounds like from what you're saying that this was something that the school was asked to provide information on much earlier than that. And I'm curious when the school was contacted for that information.
Excuse me. Excuse
Go ahead.
me.
Go ahead, Valerie.
You said late January. What year are you talking about?
This year.
All right. Audits,
Catherine, go ahead.
audits don't lie. You had an
Right.
audit that told you this a number of years ago. Okay, it has been brought up. It's also been communicated between the two finance departments. Okay.
Okay, I'm
So
just
our
asking, Catherine. I've only been on the board.
excuse me, I'm still speaking. Okay, between the two finance departments and with your superintendent, I believe. I guess I have a question. My question is for John Lippert and the board. What do you? It's great to say, hey, I'm sorry, we missed this or whatever. We didn't push hard enough. But my question is, what are you going to do now? We're there. We have to do something. The town has provided information. We have tried to make sure that you understood how important this is, and I don't think it's acceptable to just say, well, we'll push harder. No, you actually have to come up with something, and you have to get it done. So that's my thinking, and now I'm going to go to mute.
Kimberly.
Thank you. I know John was, I believe, going to talk to the business office since our last meeting, but I remember, and I'm not directly in any of the conversations, so this is just what was brought up at the Board of Ed meeting, is it was brought up that we were waiting to get direct contact. I guess our IT guy did not know what exactly needed to be done, and they were trying to get contact. Like I said, that was what was brought up at the meeting and expressed to the board on what one of the holdup was. So that I don't know.
One of the things that, Kimberly, one of the things that I would say is, first off, I don't want to be snarky here. The IT guy should have some idea what cybersecurity requirements are going to be for a school. I mean, that guy gets paid a pretty good salary to know something. And let's just say he didn't know something. Cheryl has been speaking and reaching out to the business office. I will say on her behalf for years trying to get this dealt with. And it gets met with resistance. It gets met with dismissal. It gets met with, well, whatever. The children, they're secure because of the platform that we use for them. This has nothing to do actually with the children's access to the internet. This is a much bigger concern. So I would take exception that your IT guy doesn't know what we're talking about. And if he didn't know, he shouldn't say it. He should go figure it out. So again, my point in bringing this to an agenda item and asking the Board of Ed to join us and the selectmen to be here is, at this point, nobody's trying to do a blame game thing. We got to figure out how to solve this. And my hope is that the Board of Finance, the Selectman's Office, and the Board of Ed figure out how to solve this. And that means, I believe, and I know nothing, quite honestly, but I believe if I knew nothing, the first thing I would do would be to reach out to Cheryl and say, Cheryl, what did you guys do on the town side? And what group did you use on the town side to bring your cybersecurity up to snuff? And I would start there. Al?
Yeah, the only comment I want to make is, and I guess I'm putting it on John. I think at our next board meeting, which is April 1st, I believe, we should have our tech guy bring in a plan how he would begin to address this concern. He should contact Cheryl and say, what do you need? And he should come in with a plan at that board meeting. That gives him a full week to put it together. He should be working on it already. And I think that's about as fast as we can go. And I think we should put the responsibility in the person's lap where it belongs. That's what I think.
Agreed. It is on the agenda for next week, and he has an initial presentation already. So we'll see what we think about that on Thursday.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And I had two hands raised. Jane, yours was up first, and then Catherine.
Okay, just I was asking the question before about when it was brought to the Board of Ed, because I'm trying to understand where I can understand what the issues are. So could someone point me to which audit? I've only been on the Board of Ed for just over 2.5 years. So which audit was it that called out this issue?
Cheryl, do you remember? Was it 17?
I think it was 17, fiscal year in 17, but I can check and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Catherine?
I was going to say, you can understand our frustration having had it brought up in 2017. And, certainly there's been some conversations about it, but it's been a one-sided conversation. The town has said, and has also in the past offered to help if there's any information they needed, if there are any contacts they needed. And I think much of this has been out of sight of your Board of Ed members, because I don't think that it's getting past your superintendent. Okay,
correct.
Which is where I think it should have been marked. If all of these activities, we're reaching out here and talking about your IT guy, but in reality, your superintendent should have been marshaling this through and certainly making sure it was a priority brought forth as a priority to your board.
Yep.
Okay, so I understand that a number of you don't maybe understand the aspects of what the cybersecurity should be, or maybe even how critical it is. I can tell you I have over 35 years of IT experience with things very much like this, and certainly with lots of applications where we had to have the cybersecurity in major companies. And it's amazing that it was just brushed aside. At a minimum, the superintendent should have been talking to other schools about how they were implementing it. So if I sound critical, it's because I am, because it's gone on so long.
Thanks.
And now we're at a point we're all going to pay more for it.
Yep. Thanks, Catherine. Valerie?
Does the board?
Valerie, you got to speak into the speaker. I can't hear you.
Okay. Do the Board of Education members get copies of your committee minutes, because they're pretty detailed about what we discuss?
Yeah, I send minutes as a courtesy to both the superintendent. I think it goes to Jen Barcelo. Maybe that's through him. And also I try to always include John Lippert, the chair. So I don't specifically send it to the rest of the Board of Ed members. Cheryl?
May I? Thank you, Chuck. I'm happy to speak with Scott or anybody else at the Board of Ed, but my recommendation would be that we bind this policy and that the Board of Education contract with a company to do their cybersecurity audit while they are in the process of implementing new measures. It's not. It shouldn't be one thing at a time. We can do them all at the same time, and then we'll get on the right track more quickly. And I've already provided the information of who we had do our cybersecurity audit.
Okay.
And if anyone at the Board of Ed needs assistance, I can also provide support, not myself, but other people, people from someone from Woodstock school system and I'm sorry, Putnam school system, and people who know school systems and can help with both the multi-factor authentication and with the student laptops being more secure and all of the things that a school would need. Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Cheryl. Catherine?
If I understand correctly, the multi-factor authentication is a relatively simple change to make.
Yes.
Okay. So that
Yeah.
could be done quickly, relatively
Yes.
quickly.
Yep, thanks. Kimberly?
Two things. Again, with Catherine with the multi-factor, I think our IT guy wasn't sure which type because there is different types, but I think he could probably find that out either talking to Cheryl or talking to another school. So hopefully, we'll talk. I'll have, John, I'm sure we'll check in with him. Cheryl, is there a deadline for the binder to lock it in to keep the rate we currently are offered? Because that would be nice to know if there's a date.
Well, I wouldn't put it off any longer than necessary. I think it's a 60-day quote, but I've looked at too many things. I couldn't say for sure, but I think it's a 60-day quote.
Okay, so if we can put it on our agenda next week, we've got time. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'd like to wrap up this. I think we've kind of taken as far as we can. One of the things that I would like to just clarify, I want to make sure that this part is clear. I think one of the things that we're asking for isn't so much the implementation, which of course that has to happen, but it's more along the lines of what are we implementing, which means we don't know, which means you need to have an independent cyber auditor. It's somebody that comes in and looks at it independent of you. It's not necessarily your IT guy. Your IT guy can help implement some things, certainly help understand some things, but it's an independent auditor who comes in and does a cyber audit. That's what we had done at the town. And so I just want to be very clear that there's some things that we can sort of do that are kind of no-brainer kind of things, but it's this overall audit that should be thought about, I think. And again, I don't want to belabor this anymore. I think we've been about as productive as we can be on this. I would like to jump at this point back to new business 6A. I want to thank Janice Chamberlain for taking some time out of her day to meet with us. I see that she's here now. And so she is the representative from Ashford Region 19 Board of Education to give us a overview of Region 19's budget in very broad brushstrokes. So Janice, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome. Just so people, I'm Janice Chamberlain. I've been a town resident for a number of years, since 1990. Doesn't seem like that long, but it's been a long time. And I guess that now I've been on the board for 16 plus years. So, I've really lost count, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. But if I really knew what the number was, I might not be here right now, or maybe I would be. I don't know. But I have to say, I've thoroughly enjoyed being and serving the town on Region 19 board. We have, I think, of the three towns, Ashford, Willington, and Mansfield, all the representatives do work very well together. We have a dynamite group from Ashford representing the town of Ashford on Region 19. Myself, Tony Peticchio, Tim, and missing one person. That's terrible. Oh, Elizabeth Bakash Lilly. So you are well represented, and if ever you have questions, please reach out and give us a call. Be willing to talk with anybody at any time about any question you have about the operation of the Region 19 school board. So just to give you a brief overview, Ashford, this particular school year coming up from 2021 year to 2022, based on our superintendent's proposed budget, the town share has reduced drastically for this year, and currently as presented in the town budget, the superintendent's budget, it's a 9.1% change in terms of the cost to the town. The superintendent presented this budget to the board on February 9th, and we've been having budget meetings pretty much every week, I think, pretty much every week or every 2 weeks to discuss the budget and to suggest or make recommendations for some decreases. We always look to see if we can save any more resources, any more money. We were able to find some additional savings for the budget. We had held a budget basically on March 23rd. It's a public hearing on the superintendent's budget. So as the document that you might have seen, or the redacted piece of the budget that you might have received in the town, that basically was the superintendent's budget with that 9.1% decrease to the town. Basically the Board of Finance, our finance subcommittee made recommendations for additional increases that we're now recommending. We made a motion to recommend additional decreases in the budget to the full board that meets on April 6th. So Ashford, again, right now, that percentage increase or decrease, to Ashford this year, just so you're aware, the percentage change would be a 10% decrease from last year's budget, and a savings to the town of Ashford of $390 and approximately $390,000. Okay, so that's a savings this year. One of the things that, and tell me if I'm not going in the right direction, Chuck, so
Yep.
raise your hand and say,
So far, you're great.
Okay, so one of the things that Chuck wanted me to mention moving forward, and for some of the town projections, is if you have followed, because we're a regional school district, once we take in all the revenues each year, and when we work on the budget, we look to see what the member town shares are going to be. It's actually based on the population of students we're sending to Ashford to Region 19 from Ashford. So in 2020 to 21, we actually experienced an increase because we were sending more students. Right now, that was approximately 196 students. That might have, we take a census in October of each year. This year, the budget projections and the town's costs, or the town's amount that's being allotted to Ashford, is down. We have 186 students, so that's why your total cost overall and what we're paying has decreased. And based on what we're recommending to the full Board of Ed on the 6th, that will be a decrease, like I said, of almost $400,000. Next year, or the fiscal year 2022 to 2023, that looks like it will increase again. The projections show that we're increasing our student body again. Ashford's sending an additional 10 students, or approximately 196 students. So that increase will go up again. And I'm not going to tell you specifically what that looks like, but it's probably going to be like a 5.24% projected increase based on the superintendent's 5-year. It's actually on page C10 of the full budget that was presented. It's the 5-year budget forecast. So our costs do change from year to year based on the student population. That's something that we've lived with for many years, and the towns have determined that they're going to, continue to manage that from year to year. Other things that you want me to?
Yeah, Janice, one of the things I was sort of curious about, and it was at the public hearing that you guys had the other day, but I'm wondering if you could just let our board member, the people that are at this meeting know your impressions of the roof project, the solar project, which of course, town members are helping to fund. How do you feel like those projects went? And of course, that we are in the process of considering both of those items within our own Ashford school. Do you have any quick thoughts on things to pay attention to, having been through that process?
Yeah, so I think for the most part, both of those processes went fairly smoothly. I will say, based on our experience with the State Department, it's recommended that if you're going in for a roof project and a solar project, you actually do you put those two pieces together. You're going to apply for the roof project and the solar project together, because one of the things that we learned, we didn't know this going in, but when we were meeting with, I'm trying to the State Department that reviews all these contracts and approves funding. They basically, when they sat us down, they said, well, this is great. Your roof project looks great, but if you want to put solar panels on your school, you need to present that at the same time. Now, they never, ever did this before, but I guess things have changed because they had some situations where there were some roofing projects about 6 years ago. I guess there was a major roof project that was done by a school downstate. And when they came back and put solar panels on, a number of years later, it caused all sorts of problems with the existing roof. And the state was, basically did not want to cover the costs of that new solar project going in on this particular school. So they did recommend that you, when you're putting together your project, you put together your roofing costs, and present that along with whatever your solar whoever your solar contractor is, when you present that total package to the state. I will say that the company that we worked with for the solar, and I can definitely share that information with the Ashford School. The company we worked with,
the selectman's office. Yep.
With this, the solar group was very good. They were very efficient. We had really no problems with them. The roofing contractor also very good, but we ran into a few snags towards the end. But you have to understand, I guess Ashford, E.O. Smith, Region 19, the roof is very large. In fact, the state was amazed at how big the size of the roof was. And plus we have lots of different we have curvatures on the roof. We had different materials that were used on the roof we had to actually use different materials when we put the new roof on. So it was pretty complicated. And so there were some, we ran into some snags, and we still are working on our punch list, but almost done with that piece. We have the solar is already we're already getting Xerox back from our solar project. So that's actually a savings we're experiencing this year. That's another reason why we could decrease the budget some more. because we're actually already experiencing electrical savings at this point in time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah,
Yeah,
very much
good.
so. So, so yeah, I can share, I can share information about our process with whoever, and at some future point in time, and the particular groups that the contractors that we worked with,
Great.
and Dennis, who's the facilities manager at Region 19, is an incredible manager of projects, and he would be a great person to talk to. He'll give you more information than you hear again, but it's really all good information. It's all very positive. So, and he was a taskmaster with our contractors, so it worked well.
Yeah, good, great. Thanks, Janice. That was good. Do any of the board members have any questions or something? We don't often get Janice in our clutches, so if you have any questions or things, now's the time. Anybody else? Wow, that was a great presentation. You left them stunned. Catherine?
I just wanted to thank Janice and all of our other representatives for the work that they do. They really work very hard at it, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Janice, thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
I know it was brief and just a little, very small snippet, but we like hearing from you guys, and I appreciate everything you guys do.
Yeah.
So,
not a problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care.
New business 6D, discussion with Ashford School Board of Education concerning business manager for the Ashford School. I guess, again, one of the reasons I wanted to make this an agenda item is I sort of wanted to open a discussion between the Selectman's Office, the Board of Finance, and the Board of Education. At our last meeting, if you read our minutes, there was obviously a little bit of consternation about our current business manager leaving. I think she was building an awful lot of faith within all of us, both from the finance, the selectmen, and the Board of Education. I think you guys had made a fantastic selection there. She was very good, and unfortunately she left. So, or is leaving. I guess what we are trying to find out is a sense of urgency, or what you all are thinking, and is there anything that the selectmen or the Board of Finance can do? And part of the concern is that, and I'll say this is my impression. This did not come from the board. This came from me, based on the meeting that I saw. And maybe this is not fair, and you can certainly push back on this. I felt like there was a little bit of a cavalier attitude about what she does, what her job, what her role is, and that, well, we'll just elevate somebody and that'll sort of cover it till the end of the year. And I guess I look at it a little differently. I see this as being a crisis is too strong of a word. I think you guys will manage, but I think that's the problem. It's going to be just sort of managing it. We're trying to institute a new system. We're trying to get that up to date. We've got an audit coming. There's reports that need to be considered shortly to be ready for audit time and so forth. So anyway, I wanted to open a discussion between the three boards to see what you guys are thinking and where you're heading, and if there's what you guys need. So, John.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, I'm concerned as you are at what could be seen as a cavalier attitude by the superintendent. I don't think that's quite the right interpretation. I think it's more an effort to say, yeah, we got this. We're good. You know, we got it handled. And that just didn't ring the right bells. You know, that didn't instill confidence about the process. The current plan is for, as you described, elevating one of the current business office people to be an interim manager of the department. That is Kelly Calkins. She's been with us since 2019. We have made clear to her that this is an interim situation. The next business manager will be chosen by the next superintendent. Superintendents sometimes kind of want to bring in their own team in part, and so you know that may be how it goes. It may be that she takes the position and runs with it and impresses all of us. Obviously, that's our hope. We have actually, Jane and I had a meeting with the Jane spokesperson for our finance committee, and we made a few things very clear. One is that Martha was having great success interacting with the Board of Finance and instilling confidence in the town or to the town in the operations of the school business office, and how important that is to the relationship between the boards. And the point of making that point in our meeting was for both Dr. Longo and for Kelly Calkins to recognize that's a key factor in the job. That's not just well, if it goes well, okay, good. That is a key factor of the job. We also stressed well, we also got from Kelly a good deal of comfort with her level of understanding of the weight of the job and her level of eagerness to do the job. And I think Jane and I both felt much more comfortable about this change, having spoken to her directly. The last thing I'll add is that we've asked Karen Monroe to continue to play a role at the school. She'll be away for April, but even given that, I mean, she and Kelly have already set up like a couple of times to meet per week, even though she'll be away. And we've asked her to continue to play a role as necessary for the rest of the school year, to the extent that we need additional support or oversight or whatever. I would say that regarding Karen, that y'all appropriately had a very positive feeling about the work that Martha was doing, but that a lot of that appreciation should also flow to Karen. She, as you recall, took over the department on an interim basis at an awful time, smoothed a lot of things out, and got us through some murky waters. Jane, would you like to add anything to what I've said that might help boost the confidence of the other boards in town?
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a good job covering the topics, John, that we talked about. I do feel a lot more confident having talked with Kelly, hearing about the systems that they have in place. I did not realize that Kelly has worked for the school since November of 2019. She's not a new addition to the business office, so she's had an opportunity to experience a lot of the different things that happen in the office, and she's, you know, had a decent amount of time in the office to become familiar with different aspects. She does have a lot of prior business experience, including running her own business for 15 years, not in a school. Her business wasn't a school, but she does have a background in this, and also talked with us a bit about how she worked for Mansfield Schools and the role that she played there in budgeting and building management and different aspects that I think will be valuable for Ashford School. John and I did discuss clearly with Kelly that this is an interim role, as John mentioned. This isn't our ideal situation. It's not our final solution either. You know, this is what we need to do for now with the unexpected departure of Martha. And as it goes forward, we'll continue evaluating and keeping a close eye on how things are operating. The intention was to give the new superintendent the opportunity to hire their staff. But if we are seeing in the next month or so that this is just not working, we would clearly not hesitate to take action before the new superintendent was in place to remedy anything. But Kelly talked about the contacts she has and the groups she participates in. And I honestly will say I feel very confident. She's already set up, like John said, meetings with Karen Monroe for while Karen's on vacation. Twice a week, they're going to Zoom for an hour to cover things. She's been meeting with Martha regularly to get transition Martha's activities over. And again, I don't think it's ideal, but I think right now it's a good solution to the situation we find ourselves in.
Thank you, Jane. So John, do you have an expected date to, I'm assuming, you've got to land on a superintendent. I'm not sure that, when that date would be that you would have somebody in place. And so I guess the question is, when do you anticipate having a new superintendent, and what kind of timeline does that person have to get a qualified business manager? And would it be the same process that you went through last time, in that I believe you incorporated a couple of people from the town in that process?
To answer the last part first, absolutely. If we do a search for a business manager, we would want to follow a similar process and involve, minimally, we'd want to involve Cheryl and Catherine in the process. It was extremely valuable last time. To answer the first part of your question, July 1st would be the start date. That's the beginning of our year. Depending on the circumstances, if it's at all possible, we would like to have there be some transition period where, with Dr. Longo still on the job, the new person identified, that there be time for discussion, so that it's not all learning on July 1st. It's hitting the ground running, so to speak. We've had a superintendent search committee in process for at least a couple of months now, and we've had the job posted, and we've received applicants, and we'll be doing interviews in April.
So do you expect to, and I'll be honest, I don't know how this works, so I'm definitely speaking from ignorance. Would you expect to have a new superintendent, air quotes, hired before the old superintendent has left? And if so, would that be, basically, as they say, first day on the job, would that person be looking at a business manager as a priority to get something like that filled as quickly as possible?
Yes to all of that. It's our strong hope that we have a next superintendent identified well before Dr. Longo's last day. And certainly one of the key topics of discussion at that time during those hopefully 2 months of overlap, not so much overlap of responsibilities, but overlap of knowing who the person is, would be the question of the business manager. If it was feasible, if we know who the superintendent will be, if it's feasible to work together to do a business manager search at that time prior to July 1st, I would strongly, do what I could to make that happen.
Thank you. That's a good answer. That's what we were looking. That's what I was. That was my question. So you answered it.
Well, could I add one thing? I'd like to acknowledge the worst case scenario, which is that we either don't identify somebody until right about July 1st, or there's no chance to work on the effort of finding a new business manager. Worst case scenario is our default is that we currently have a interim business manager that we feel pretty happy with. We're a little nervous, I have to be honest, but we feel happy and increasingly confident. Honestly, she acknowledged, and we did too, that it's just going to play out over the next few months. If she makes a good impression on us and on you, then that's all that really matters. Whatever we think about her now or say about her now doesn't really matter. It's just how it goes, how well she does the job. It's my strong hope that she blows us all away, and we even if we did a search, we would decide that she was the one for the job. That's my hope. I know that's a little overly optimistic, but it's not impossible. Overly optimistic is my middle name, after all.
Judy, you had a question.
Yeah, yes, I do. So was Kelly working with the last business manager, and what was her position if she was?
She started like moments before, I think it was her second day or her second week that our previous business manager, Lisa Dyer, left rather precipitously. So she was kind of involved in the whole, oh my God, what just happened and what do we do now situation that we were in at that time. Does anyone know specifically what her role was at the time? I believe it was the same that she's in now, which was, Jane, could you say?
Yeah, she said that she was hired to cover payroll and benefits, and that's what she's been doing since November of 2019 when she started. And that Lynn, who's there and is continuing to work there, covers the accounts payable stuff. So that's how they've divided it previously. And she said she would continue to do the payroll and benefits work. That, I think what John said was correct. I think she said it was her second day when Lisa Dyer left.
Okay.
Judy, do you have more?
No, I just wanted to know her involvement with, if she had really any involvement with the debacle with Lisa.
Okay, thank
as
you.
an auditor, I'm with Cheryl, time is of the essence, that somebody gets there permanently for the auditing purposes, because they're going to need time. I was just wondering if she had gone through the whole mess.
Yep. Catherine, you had your hand up?
So if I understand correctly, if I understood what John was saying, basically the contract for your current superintendent ends on June 30th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you really are not hiring another superintendent until that contract is up. Is that correct?
Well, we hope to hire them prior to that date, but their contract would start July 1st. I think that's what you're saying.
Right. I don't understand hire when we're talking about contract.
Identify. Have an
Identify.
agreement.
Okay, so the person would be identified but not hired at that point. I do want to make sure that we're clear about what the process is to bring other people, other town leaders or whatever, into the final decision on the superintendent. Is anyone going to be included? Or is it just your board?
Our plan now is for our board to be the interviewers and decision makers. We wish to continue to have as much input as possible from others in town. As you know, we reached out for advice and suggestions in the earlier part of the process as we were developing the job description, and we'd like to. That's to be discussed amongst us, but there's a strong desire to continue to elicit ideas and suggestions and advice from the town.
Okay, so in the past, the way it's worked is that the Board of Ed with a subcommittee working on it was looking at candidates, et cetera, and then bringing forth those people to be interviewed. And then when they got down to general finalists, they would also bring in, say, the chair of the Board of Finance, one of the selectmen, to just to look at the final candidates with them. It was part of a superintendent search committee. So it looks like you're doing it differently this time. How you do it is your business, but that is how it's been done in the past. So I want to let you know that.
Well, it's good that you mentioned.
What I saw when the information was sent out that I received is you didn't really have a job description yet. Okay, and one of the things that I saw that was missing, and I did document it back, and what I eventually got was there was really nothing about the superintendent having the responsibility for maintaining the plant, and that kind of overseeing of what was going on with the building, those kinds of things. So it was very focused on education. I can certainly appreciate that, and it was focused on the school's mission, but nothing about the other. So I am concerned that we're going to kind of end up in another bad situation when it comes to some of the things that go on with projects at the school. So,
Catherine, I believe in the current job description that was posted, it does mention plant maintenance.
Perhaps it does now. I'd love to see that. I don't think I've seen the current one. I saw what was sent out to me initially. So that's one thing. The other thing is, okay, so when all is said and done, your new superintendent basically legally won't be brought on to the school, if you will, until July 1st, correct?
Correct.
So it sounded to me like your intent is to continue to have Dr. Longo in some kind of support role for about, it sounded like maybe 2 months, to do kind of coverage. So it's not a knife switch changeover in terms of your superintendent.
That's not,
is that correct?
That's not what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping
I'm trying
that,
to understand how it would work.
Yeah, what I'm hoping for is for the overlap to happen ending on July 1st. It may not be possible, but that's really more my idea rather than hanging on to Dr. Longo after that point. That's not what I wish to happen.
I guess I would be a little concerned about, when you have a contract, you have certain guarantees in place. And you're going to be, I would think that there'd be certain privileged information that was going to be shared between the two superintendents. And so I would expect you'd want to have them under contract or some kind of an agreement if you were doing things earlier than July 1st. So also, it sounds like you're asking him to work for free until July 1st. Is that your understanding? Is that he or she would just be available, make themselves available to work with the current superintendent to understand how things work?
I guess that's what I'm saying.
That'll be interesting.
So
I guess it's a bad idea then. If
me
it's
just
not
interject
feasible, if
for a
it can't be
second.
done, then we won't do that. Worst case
Yeah.
scenario is Dr. Longo will leave the building on the 30th of June. A new person will come in July 1st, and that's that.
So one of the things I might suggest, based on Catherine's latest conversation, is I'm wondering, John, if that's a question for your attorney to find out how you could do what you're suggesting. Is there a way to have an overlap between the superintendents if it's needed? And maybe it's not. I don't know. That would be more your call. But it seems to me like Catherine's brought up some sort of interesting ponderables that maybe your school's attorney can just clarify how something like that could work.
Yes, I appreciate the advice and ideas, and our search committee will continue to discuss things like that, and they'll continue to inform me about those sort of situations, and we will certainly engage the attorney as needed.
And we've kind of strayed off topic a little bit. This is really a discussion more about a business manager than it is a superintendent. So I want to sort of slightly stay more on topic. Kimberly, you had your hand up.
I was going to just mention with the superintendent, I think, and it's going to be with the business manager, we're going on what works without rushing. We don't want to rush into anything. We don't want to rush into getting the wrong person, whether it's a superintendent or a business manager. So for the superintendent, if we can get someone in earlier, then we would reach out to our attorney and say, contract, whether we would be paying them to come in a day or two a week. If we were able to do that, we'd overlap. And as John says, we're not looking to extend Dr. Longo past that June 30th. This would be prior. We've also discussed if we can't find the best candidate to get an interim in. They said East Con could get that. And the same thing with the business manager, we'll look into it. If it's not working, that's when we could look back to East Con to find a temporary solution. And maybe the board will be looking for a business manager and not waiting for the superintendent. So we do want to do what's right, but we don't want to rush any decisions and do the wrong one.
Yeah, good point, Kimberly. Thank you. And one of my last thoughts on that, and then I'll hand it over to Cheryl for a second. Is so it would seem to me that huge attention needs to be paid on that business manager position. We don't want to wait till it is a failure, obviously. So we want to jump on that before it's a problem. And so, really paying attention. And, again, I'm only looking at it from my perspective. I am very heavily reliant on the selectman's office and the town's finance office to help me understand what they're seeing coming out of the school. That's our little window into whether things are going well, or there's little bumps in the road, or there are things that I have to pay attention to, or I have to make a judgment. So I listen to the tenor of what I'm hearing coming out of there. So again, all I'm suggesting is we need to really pay attention that the business office at the school doesn't land where it did last time, and then I'll hand it over to Cheryl.
Thanks, Chuck. I just want to say that I cannot strongly enough tell you how important it is to look for your new business manager now, right now. You should be putting ads out. This perennial disregard for how important that office and that position are cannot go on. We will begin our audit mid-May. In mid-May, we'll be doing pre-audit testing. We will have to be sending reports to the auditors. I was on the interview committee for Kelly, and she interviews very well. She did have her own business. She worked in a principal's office, I believe, in the Mansfield school system. But running your own business and jumping into municipal and Board of Education accounting are entirely different animals. And I would really hate to lose Kelly altogether because she becomes overwhelmed in a position she's either not qualified for or not prepared to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
And so,
from me
John,
too.
yeah, John, so that's really the essence of the concern and tenor coming out of both the Selectman's office and the Board of Finance perspective. We're really worried about this one. Just again, I don't want to belabor it. We've already basically accomplished what we needed to accomplish with this particular item. So I'll stop there. It's clearly important to everybody. I feel like we should be done with this agenda item. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank Board of Ed members. The rest of what we have in the meeting is sort of mundane for you guys. Again, I really thank all of the Board of Ed members that came to this. It's important. Al and Jane and Kim and John. I very much appreciate all the work that you do. It's not easy. I get it. It's you have a lot on your shoulders, and we appreciate you getting here and stepping into the fire as usual. The next agenda item is fiscal year 1920 annual report update. I don't know if Jesse's still here. I assume there's not a lot to talk about. I just want to keep this on our agenda.
Yes, I'm here, Chuck. I don't have anything new since last week's meeting, so I'll just keep it short at that.
Yep, that's
I'll be
good.
getting in touch.
I'm going to keep this on. I'm going to keep this on our agenda until we start making some headway. So thank you.
Thanks.
I don't know if John Kopech's here. I also expect this will be very brief. Update on Finance Office Committee progress.
Yep, we'll be picking that up again after budget season.
Okay. And John, do we have yet an updated committee membership for that? I think with Catherine was on that. I don't know if she is now given her new role. I believe that there's been changes at the school. I don't know if Jane is still on your committee or not. I'm unclear on that.
The only the only changes I've gotten so far are Kim Kawatli is replacing Jane.
Okay, good. And Catherine, what's your role? Can you have a role on that little committee, or what's the deal with that?
I think I can.
Okay, all right.
All right. What we'll do is once they restart the committee, and we'll make sure what the tasks are they're really looking for that person to do, then I'll make sure that fits. I think it does. So
So what I'm wondering is, do you think it would be reasonable to have just a brief meeting, you, John, and maybe Kim or Al, from just a little sub meeting, just to be able to help the committee go in some direction?
sounds good.
John, does that ring true to you?
We've already got a trajectory ready to go. At this point, it's just a matter of waiting for the budget seasons to end, because all the people that we're going to be contacting in are all crazy busy right now. So as soon as that season is beyond us, we're pretty well ready to start the process again.
Okay.
So
all right.
I don't think we're in any. We got a good path already.
Okay, good. Thanks, John. Next agenda item, second opportunity for public comment. Wow, I guess we talked too much already. Agenda items for the April 8th regular meeting. I'll send something out. I don't have anything specific right at this moment, except that that is the meeting where the Board of Finance approves the proposed budgets for moving forward. I think it goes to the selectmen for the public hearing, or I forget all the details on that exactly. Catherine?
If I understand correctly, the Region 19 will have their, bear with me, I've got it here, April 6th will be their next meeting, talking about what the Region 19 budget will be, at which point I'm sure they'll be making some kind of a motion in there. So you're talking about your meeting, the next meeting for the Board of Finance is what?
Thursday, April 8th.
Okay, so it's 2 days before that, which should give you better information to work with, I would hope.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so that's the meeting where the Board of Finance sends to the Board of Selectmen to set the date and approve notice for the public hearing. And that's where the Board of Finance also decides, what we're going forward with. All right, so that'll be the agenda items. We'll make them very simple that day. Remarks for the good of the board. All right, I thank all of you.
If I could make a remark, again, on how very much Carl will be missed. He was such a valuable member of your board and our community, and he will be missed.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, ditto.
Yep, we're all going to miss him terribly. He was a fantastic member. Let's see, where's John? John, I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Angie DeSanto.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.